What I would like to do today is change this chain for one that does not look like I found it in a scrapyard. So I've elected to replace the scrapyard chain with one that looks like I stole it from Snoop Dogg. This is the front sprocket, which is mounted pretty much directly onto the output shaft from the gearbox. And as you can see, the teeth are quite narrow and they're beginning to just sort of curl over. They get a bit sort of hook shaped. An important note to remember about motorcycle chains and sprockets is that they are sized according to one another. So this chain has a specific pitch, which is noted right here. You can see there it says 530. It's made in Japan and is made by DID. No affiliation. You know, other flavours are readily available. What do the numbers mean? The first number, the 5, is 5/8 between the centres of these pins, and then the 30 is 3/8 between the chain side plates, right? So this space here, in here, is 3/8, and the pins are 5/8, and there's your 530. Many people assume that job 1 in changing a motorcycle chain is to cut the chain off. That is in fact job number 2. Don't cut this off first, because this is going to help you out. The chain will allow you to lock the rear wheel on either the gears or the rear brake in order for you to crack these loose. So this is a bit what I was talking about here, is I can't wail on this fixing because it's just going to drive the rear wheel. So what I'm going to do is come around this side, stand on the rear brake, which is going to hold the rear wheel for me, and then with a bit of luck, without pulling the bike off the stand, there we go, go ahead and cut the chain off. Fucking grease all over it, I can't pull the bloody thing out. Sort of just checking for play there on the output shaft. She feels absolutely silky. She's a good girl. I'm hoping that the difference between the tooth profile on these two sprockets should be reasonably obvious. Make sure that while you're doing all this you clean all of the manky grease, because grease, despite being great at lubricating stuff, it's also a fantastic glue that attracts every piece of crap you will pick up off of the road, will then become essentially a grinding paste. One of the best things for cleaning motorcycle crap generally is kerosene. Freaking love this stuff, cheap as chips and gets everything off, also doesn't really hurt anything. Obviously don't drink it, but you get the idea, right? What the fuck? It's not the right fucking size! Oh, what a dickhead. Kerosene. This is a sealed O-ring chain. It's a riveted chain, so I will need to manually rivet this together. What sealed O-ring chain means is that each roller link is sealed with an O-ring. I know, the nomenclature is very complex. This rivet link is exactly the same as all the other links. You put a couple of O-rings on that, you put your chain together, a couple more O-rings on top, and the final external plate on top of that, and then you press this into place. You will notice on these pins there is a detent in them which accepts the riveting head, and what it does is it goes into that detent, presses down with a great deal of force, and then flares it out just a little bit. It's an interference fit already, so the flaring tool only needs to make it bigger by a very tiny amount in order to stop that top plate from coming off. This is my chain braking and riveting tool, and what this does is presses the plate onto the link, and then rivets it with this little head. These are great. There are other ways to do this. It is possible to rivet a chain manually without one of these, but honestly, these just make life so much easier. Put the chain through and check the length. It should be the correct length, but it's definitely always worth checking out. So you don't put on a chain that's too long and it ends up flapping around like a dick in a bucket, you know. In order to adjust the wheel, we need to move the whole axle forwards. I'll do this by these 10 out of 12 if I remember rightly. Release the lock nut, screw it in. This will then allow us to give the wheel a shunt forward. That has given us enough slack to pull those up right next to each other. For the love of God, make sure you've got your O-rings in place before you rivet the chain, before you even press the other side on, because boy oh boy, you're going to regret it if you forget those. You see the recess in here is designed to clear these pins when they come through. It's always worth backing off to double check, because believe me, if you bugger this up, they're a pain in the ass to get off. And then bring it to the bottom run here where I can get my grubby mitts on it to make sure that I haven't pressed it on too far. The easiest way to do that is to just take a measurement of the link next to it, because these will all be pressed on at the factory to the same dimensions. If I took it less like an idiot, that'd be great. 2203, give or take. And then once I can slip that caliper over there, I know I've pressed that in far enough, I can then go ahead and flare the rivets. And now we come to the riveting bit. This is the point at which you can properly buggerify your chain. If you over flare these, you risk jamming the links. So the chain will end up with a kink in it. Now you might be into that, but chains are only ever sold with one of these. This is why, generally speaking, I like to rivet chains in one go. So without further ado, let's see if we can't fuck this up. Now I'm using a spanner, but this isn't necessarily as much for mechanical advantage as it is for comfort. The OD of this rod isn't very big, and this proper digs into your hand. So mostly this is on here to give me a nice flat surface to push against. I would always caution against using massive mechanical advantage on chain riveting tools, just because it's quite easy to go too deep and make somebody squeal. So that's it. Now it's all sort of final touch up. So the wheel will be aligned, which is what that little red thing's for. Go out for a test ride and see how she feels. Yeah, all right, feels good. I'm happy with that, and as always, see you next time.